I'd like to thank
Item
Everybody, welcome to the special meeting of the St. Mary Parish School Board. At this time, could we call roll? Dr. Bagwell?
Yes, sir. Mr. Fulcard. Ms. Lockett. Present. Mr. Alfred.
Here.
Mrs. Rack.
Present.
Mrs. Griffin.
Here.
Ms. LaSalle. Ms. LaSalle's virtual. Mr. Delott.
Here.
Mrs. Black.
Here.
Mr. Barbier. Here. Mr. Verrett. And Mr. Taylor.
Here.
And we have a quorum.
Thank you. Before we start, just want to remind everybody here that this is a business meeting. We have a procedure that's the same procedure that the state legislature uses for speaking, for public speaking on agenda items. Each person that has turned in a card to ask to be a spokesperson will be given 3 minutes to speak on the subject. There will be a clock on the monitor. At the end of 3 minutes, I will stand up just to notify you that your time's expiring, let you kind of wrap up your comment, and we'll move on to the next person. We have several people that have asked to have an opportunity to say something. All right. The first item on the agenda is review and take appropriate action regarding adjustments to the 2020-21 St. Mary Parish school calendar. Dr. Bagwell.
The opening of the school year for 2021 has presented several challenges and areas of serious consideration. St. Mary began the process roughly 6 months ago and has worked through many iterations of the plan itself and proper development and implementation procedures, along with timelines, which in some cases proved to be an exercise in futility. Within the last week, since the board met to adopt the district's reopening plan and adjusted school calendar, the following challenges and critical updates have been encountered. Enrollments in the district's all-virtual educational model have increased daily, given ongoing parent requests. With fluctuation in enrollment numbers, class schedules have required significant revisions, along with a teacher's actual teaching assignment. As a result, class configurations that must meet the finite number of 24 have required corrections. Further, the assignment of teachers to instruct virtual and face-to-face each day created an imminent need for extra training in this mode of teaching. Correspondingly, these same teachers are learning new curriculum, teaching strategies, and interventions. The ability of the district to fully train teachers in virtual instruction presented an additional challenge, as it was impeded by the fact that some teachers were unable to participate in the Microsoft trainings this summer due to the district's conversion to a new domain. This caused some teachers to only recently be able to complete them after returning to school on August 4th. Over the last 3 days, schools have been tasked with logistically preparing faculties regarding safety regulations newly instituted and supporting them through the normal annual workshops for the open of school. Altering the opening day most considerably affects our teachers, who will now have additional time to prepare, a time that is essential to learn and practice for online instruction, which they have little or no experience in. It will also offer time to orientate parents of virtual students in necessary supports for their child in this instructional delivery system. This investment will be of value to the overall effectiveness of teachers who may now be teaching nearly as many students sitting in the classroom as those remoting in from home. That brings me to a third consideration. St. Mary, like districts across our state and nation, is increasingly reliant upon computer devices and internet access for student learning. While St. Mary has invested substantially in this effort, we are only now able to provide every student with computer access, having maximized CARES Act funding. I would like to ask Mr. DeReese to provide the board with more details.
Thank you, Dr. Bagwell. Yeah, when this pandemic first hit, we knew back in March that though we had invested a lot of money in technology, we didn't have the assets needed to distribute computers to students, to every student. So, long story short, basically the students that were in dual enrollment classes received the devices we had. We knew that some sort of virtual education was going to be in the future. We didn't know where the funding was coming from. Finally, the CARES Act comes through. We basically get, by the end of May, we know that we'll have funding for some type of technology, mainly student devices, that we'll be able to roll out. Immediately, even before the state had approved our plan, we ordered those devices. We've received many of those devices, but when we first had this conversation, our intention was going to be to go one-to-one in the classroom. So we would put the devices in the classroom, let the kids get used to them. They would be going class to class with the device. During the summer, that basically changed to where, okay, well, let's do a true one-to-one. The kids will be taking them home. Some will be virtual. Before we can let those devices leave our hands, I've always promised Dr. Bagwell, I make the promise to you, we need control over those devices. And when I say control, basically I mean we're filtering them. So we have a content filter, making sure that students look at educationally appropriate material on the internet. So we need to make sure we're remote filtering at their home location. We're tracking them. We have over $3 million invested in this program, so we do have tracking software on the new Dell laptops to make sure that if they disappear from a kid's house, we would be able to retrieve that laptop, whether it's in a neighbor's house or whether it's in another part of the state or the country. And then the other one is just an asset tag. We're using our Follett system, which we use to check our libraries because our students and teachers are already in the system. So all we would need to do is piggyback on that, stick an asset tag on it, be able to barcode and read that label on the laptop, read the label from a student, check it out just like we do books. Those mechanisms were not in place in March, April. As soon as we knew we wanted these measures, we moved forward. These things took time to make sure that we had mission in place to make sure we had those assets, because I didn't want to have to come to you in December or definitely next May and say, oh, by the way, we lost $300,000 worth of laptops. We don't know where we went. We checked them out and kids have them. So I've always assured Dr. Bagwell, when we have those methods in place, we'll be ready to go. We're extremely close. And when I say extremely close, it's like basically horseshoes and hand grenades, because basically if I'm not 100% sure that I can give a device and I know where it's at, who it belongs to, and I can get it back, it's the same as being not ready for anything. Extremely close, and with that, we should be able to move forward and take care of the assets we have sitting in the warehouse, get those into the junior highs and high schools for the laptops. On the other side, for the elementary, we do have new streams coming. We've received about less than half of our total order. The good news on the elementary side, though, we have more streams available, so we should be able to support the elementary schools faster. But once again, that still relies, before we send a device home, we need to make sure we have it accounted for. And this is an issue, if this was just going into the schools, that wouldn't be as big of a deal, because I can say I'll put 3,000 devices out in the schools. Something goes wrong, I have a technician to go to that school and fix it. I send 3,000 devices at home, something goes wrong, I don't have 3,000 technicians to go to somebody's house to make sure it's right. And I definitely don't want the students to have to bring it back to us. That would just further delay their education. So what I'm telling Dr. Bagwell, and I'll tell the board tonight, is to make sure that for us to move forward, I need to make sure that it works perfectly. We're close, we're just not there. That's all. That's what I can tell you. Questions?
Are you going to follow up with anything, Dr. Bagwell?
Yeah. So my third consideration is that last week we saw an extension of Phase 2 till August 31st. District officials have received data updates on a regular basis from the Office of Public Health for Region 3. I have every confidence that St. Mary stands ready to execute the safety measures that are required for reopening schools. However, I learned within this last week that there are several factors which directly impact our students and our teachers that could be mitigated by a shift in the school calendar. As supervisors have gone out to the schools and as we have talked with principals, the prevailing concern is that they're not ready. Consequently, I felt that it was my duty to offer the board the opportunity to receive these recent updates in order to determine the best course of action. I have provided a proposed calendar, which just shows you what it might look like if we moved the school year back and had students return on the day after Labor Day, but kept teachers on campus for training and preparation for 2 weeks in advance of that to enhance our ability to be ready for students, whether they're in the classroom or whether they're remotely learning from home. So now I would open it to questions.
We have some questions from the board. Mr.
You just
Delay?
presented the calendar?
This,
Yes.
right, this is just an example of what it would look like if we were to push back to after Labor Day start, just so that you could see.
Is this the same calendar that you emailed us?
Ma'am?
Was this calendar emailed to us?
No, I don't believe it was. We just finished it a couple hours ago because we needed to check instructional minutes and work calendars.
What are we losing in the calendar if we go to September 8th?
Okay, so the biggest adjustment would be, obviously, if you look, the school year doesn't end until June the 4th. So that would be the biggest change. The second change would be a change in holidays, where for Mardi Gras holiday, there would not be a week-long holiday. There would be the traditional 3 days, and the other 2 days would be instructional days. The other adjustment from the current calendar, if you look, January 4th would be added as an instructional day. That currently was a holiday. We also had 3 professional development days, one in October, one in November, and one in January. Those are eliminated. Those are student contact days, student instructional days. And the other thing that we would do is we would add 10 minutes of instructional time to the actual school day.
Mr. Delay?
I'd like to ask a question about the tracking.
Yes, sir.
Can't we start without the tracking and install the tracking when you have it worked out?
On the laptops?
Yes.
It's a possibility, but once again, there would be no guarantee that it would download, especially remotely. And that's what my intention has always been before I basically sign, seal, deliver. Mr. Delay, take this laptop home. It has everything in place.
Aren't we having the parents sign for these laptops?
We are. There's going to be a contract involved. Parents are responsible.
So if we waited, gave them the laptops, and waited for the tracking, you could install the tracking on the fly, couldn't you?
I couldn't guarantee it. That's all I can tell you.
What you mean you can't guarantee it?
I can't guarantee it because a lot of that revolves around the students.
If you got the computers, why can't you install the tracking?
I can install it in place. Yes, I'm saying you made it sound like if I gave it to you and they had it at home, could I install it on their home?
Well, rather than delay school start for this, I would rather take the risk on the tracking and install the tracking later, as soon as you got it.
Mrs. Lockett?
Are we ready with the hotspot for the internet?
The internet connection is basically the second phase. I mean, the first thing, it does us no good to have internet without laptops, but at this point, laptops without an internet would also serve the same purpose. We're working on that. Actually, I have a call with Detail today. They're doing the outside hotspots, and those should be set up shortly. As far as for the remote, the plan 1, 2, and 3 that we've talked about, those are not in place at this time. Once we get an idea of who's virtual and who's not, where's the concentration of families that may be affected, that's when we would move forward for that.
I asked that because I want you to know that would it make a difference if we didn't have that to keep us going.
And one of the things on the virtual learning commitment form, the parent did have to identify whether or not they had a reliable internet.
Mrs. Wright?
I'd like to make a motion. Okay, I'd like to move that we accept the calendar that is presented by Dr. Bagwell.
Have a motion and a second. Do you have any discussion? Mr. Alfred?
Dr. Bagwell.
Yes,
it's,
sir.
Hold
2
on.
weeks.
Mr. Alfred, if you would, let's let the public have their comment, and we will follow up afterward, if you don't mind.
Do what now?
We'll let the public speak on this item now that we have a motion on the floor,
We had discussion.
and then we'll let you follow up afterward. Sorry.
Can't understand y'all through those.
Write your questions.
Mrs.
I'll stand down.
Mrs. Meehan.
Would y'all please, would y'all
Mrs.
please, when you,
Patty Meehan.
excuse me, Mr. Taylor,
Yes.
we are 6 foot apart. When y'all speak, could we get rid of the mask? I can't understand through the mask.
I had trouble with it myself.
You can hear me?
Yes, I can hear Ms. Rack through this, but that mask distorts it through that mic.
It is.
So,
All right, Mrs. Meehan, would you take the mic, please? And you'll be given 3 minutes. I'll stand at 3 minutes and ask you to wrap up your comments at that point.
Good afternoon. I'll keep an eye on it. I'll be brief. My name's Patty Meehan. I was here last week to talk to y'all. I appreciate y'all giving us the opportunity to speak. Thank you, Dr. Bagwell, very much. It was what she said. That is what I was going to say. We really, as staff, our primary concern is the welfare and the education of our students and their families and ourselves on school campuses. And everything that Dr. Bagwell just said is accurate. We're working very hard to learn the new programs, the teams. Our trainers are working very hard with us. But it takes a lot. It takes a lot to learn all this new stuff. It's complicated, and we want to do it right. We want to get it right for our kids. I'm a speech pathologist. I've never done teletherapy. It's been around for a long time, but I've never done it before. But I'm learning. That's what I spent today doing. We teletherapied with each other all day, trying to figure out how to do this and do it right and do it well. Besides, the safety concerns that I talked to you guys about last time, and hoping to get the reduction in infections in this state, which, if you listened to the governor a little while ago, we're on the right track. We're moving in the right direction. We still have high numbers of infections, but we're moving in the right direction. Time is what we need. We need a little more time. We need time to hone our skills and get really good at this. And, we want to, my staff at my school is amazing. Everybody is so ready to go, but we want to do it right. We don't feel comfortable providing the instruction and whatnot with the training that we've done so far. Hone our skills and master these skills that we need to provide quality education and quality service to our students. And I ask you sincerely from the bottom of my heart to please consider this proposal. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, our next speaker is Craig Matthews.
Good afternoon,
Good afternoon.
Mr. President, Madam Vice President, members of the board, administration, our community, citizens that are present. For the record, my name is Craig A. Matthews, 1T in Matthews, 2208 Highway 318, Jeanerette. I stand before you today, once again, as a parent, concerned parent of a West St. Mary High School student. And I want to, with the brief time that I have, just echo a few of the sentiments that I heard as I stood out in the lobby. I heard Dr. Bagwell and I believe Mr. DeReese refer to Dr. Bagwell's second consideration or concern. I couldn't quite hear everything clearly. Being that the general sentiment is we're close, but we're not there yet. We're just not ready. Those sentiments have been echoed throughout this community for quite some time, prior to tonight's proceeding. So we certainly would like to commend that acknowledgement, despite how it has come about. I think we have a unique opportunity in this terrible crisis to shift our focus as a community to less a focus of imitating other communities, other districts, and being innovators and doing what is necessary and what is right for our citizens, and not imitate what others are doing simply because they're doing it. I want to leave you with 3 recommendations. 1, I would ask that you would please consider, as you look at the calendar or the proposed calendar adjustments that have been made. I believe it's been stated that the proposition you may consider tonight is to postpone the opening of schools through a bricks and mortar scenario or option to sometime after Labor Day. We would recommend that at that point, after Labor Day, sometime after Labor Day, that this board would consider a full 100% virtual option that would be required for all students, for all families, as opposed to leaving it up to families to choose a bricks and mortar option, at least for the first 9 weeks of this current school session. We believe that would be the responsible thing to do, considering our governor just signed an executive order or amended executive order to continue the phase 2. Second recommendation, that you would consider temporarily relocating your public meetings to a facility that is more conducive, because there's about 75 people all across the parish where you could adequately social distance. That would be in consideration of your constituents having an opportunity to come into your meetings. And then thirdly and finally, as I leave the podium, I would urge this board, or we would urge this board, to please adhere to your own policies and take this opportunity to engage some form of a community school relations committee of your primary stakeholders and other key local community agencies and governmental agencies to be a part of these critical decisions, because that's something that has never happened in this school district.
Thank you, Mr. Matthews.
Thank you.
All right, our next speaker is Mrs. Ty Brounder.
Good evening. I'm Ty Browder. I am currently an art educator at Centerville School, elementary and middle school. I come to you just, number one, first, let me thank Dr. Bagwell for your proposition you've given us today, just to study and to secure equipment for the students that are choosing virtual learning. I just ask that you continually enable and just realize that the students are our future, and our teachers and our support staff and the administration at these schools help to grow and cater these students. Just please be mindful of the inevitable that is sure to come to us. Just be patient with us, and just please keep an eye on all our willing to choose options for the safety of the students and the leaders that are in each school in this parish. Please consider the delay in opening the school for students. And thank you, Mr. Wise, for the technology advice and the endeavors that you're pursuing. But please, please, please do not forget, number one, these students and their safety. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Alfred.
All right, thank you, Mr. Taylor. First of all, I'd like to commend our staff here at the central office for the work they've done this summer, especially lately when things started accelerating at a tremendous pace and changing daily. Definitely want to commend y'all for that. Y'all have done a wonderful job. You know, when you vote for something like this, I kind of feel like going back to my baseball days like an umpire. No matter how you vote, you're going to upset half the people. And the reason why I say upset half the people, because I'm hearing people come to the meetings and express their wishes of postponing the beginning of school, and I'm receiving phone calls and emails and on my personal devices saying, get us back to school now. Our kids need to be back in school. We, the teachers, need to be back in school. And to be honest with you, I received a pretty good number of emails this morning, and it was 100% of people saying, get us back to school Monday. One of the questions I was asked that really doesn't have an answer, how did Labor Day become the magic date? You know, why not Thanksgiving? Why not the end of August? I don't understand why Labor Day is got to do it. In fact, I could vote for a delay. I listen to Dr. Bagwell, I listen to Mr. Day-Reese. I could vote for a delay, but I could never vote for a 20-day delay. And I'm looking at those 2 weeks in August from the 10th to the 21st, where what's the plan? What's going to happen in those 2 weeks? Can somebody answer that? Dr. Bagwell, anybody?
I can interject on that. Between those times, that's when we would be working to solidify the computers and work on the technology that's actually in the schools. And teachers would also have access to their classrooms to continue upgrading them and preparing for the opening of school, as well as administrators.
Okay, thank you.
The trainings, the Microsoft Team trainings are all on a virtual platform, so teachers would still have access to those for those that didn't get to participate in that as yet.
Okay, and well, I lost my train of thought when I asked that question. Okay, so during that 2-week period, you explained to me what's going to happen. That 2-week period is not enough for us to be prepared to go on, August the 24th?
And I think that all hinges on the technology. If we knew that the technology was going to be ready, I think, yes, we could be ready on the 24th.
I mean, surely in 2 additional weeks we can have it ready, huh? Mr. Day-Reese said they're close.
Mr. Alfred, one additional thing that I have a concern about is because we switched to a new domain, like Dr. Fagemush and I both had trainings, our teachers couldn't even get on their laptops because the tech has to touch every teacher computer because they can't even log on to their laptops. So when we had a science training, we had to postpone that for the new science curriculum for K-2 because teachers couldn't get on for the training.
In 2 weeks is not enough time to do that.
I don't know.
I'm just going by what Mr. Day-Reese said about being close.
Can't guarantee it, though.
I mean,
I know you can't guarantee anything. You
And-
can't guarantee anything by Labor Day.
well, the thing about Labor Day, I mean, it does buy us an extra week and a weekend. I mean, and I think the reason most people do Labor Day is because of that extra Monday that you come a week and then you like that. But as far as for the technology, no, we still, like as Ms. Free you mentioned, I mean, we do have issues when we move to the new domain that created a lot of havoc. We're settling those issues. We have a lot of devices, and I don't want to make it sound like we can't do it. We can do it, but it's just taking time, and it's taking more time than we had anticipated. And the reason being, and I'll go to other districts that have done one-to-one, most have done this over a 4 or 5 year period. We're doing it over 3 months. So I'm asking for a little leeway here, that if we can just get a little more time, that we could definitely, it'll be a better product after Labor Day, then it would be Monday, then it would be the following Monday, then it'd be the Monday after next. And I mean, that's all I can tell you is that we want to make sure when we give it out to a student, it is 100% ready. Because any part of, especially now that we have a full virtual, student takes it home and they have problems doing the full virtual, we're going to have to, that's another problem we'll have to incur. As Ms. Lockett mentioned, as far as the interconnectivity, there's going to be areas where that's going to be our next focus and stuff. So if we can make sure the devices work, that's one check that would definitely help us out, and then we can move on to the next one.
Well, Mr. DeReese, I agree that that's a concern about the connectivity and everything, but you talked about that to us at a board meeting, what, 2 months ago?
Correct.
Surely we must have, what we've been doing in the last 2 months to solve that problem?
Well, it's a problem I can't solve because I can't provide, I can't pay for anybody's internet. So we're trying to do solutions that we have control over, and one of them is the parking lot access at the schools. And I have a vendor that I talked with today that hopefully that'll be installed within the next week or two. The next step will be trying to venture out and to see. The problem is some of these solutions are very expensive. I mean, we're talking $10,000, $20,000, and the problem is you have to sign up for a year. So we're hoping that maybe this will last for a few months. But if we're going to be on the hook for $20,000 to provide internet for 3 people, that's an agreement I don't want to sign just yet. So that's why we really need to know who's impacted, where's the concentrations that are impacted, and we take care of that area. Then we move on. I can't just blanket St. Mary Parish with internet.
Okay, thank you. One other thing, Mr. Taylor, in closing, is one of our guests made a suggestion about going 100% online after Labor Day. Unless things have changed, I know in fact, back when I taught, I'm not even going to go back to when I was in school, that's too long, but back when I taught, you know, the teachers and the kids wanted to be in school. They didn't want to be online. You know, and I can see these kids online right now at home falling asleep and while the lesson's going on, and I just, God bless y'all for being able to do that, but I just don't think that's the way for our future for our kids.
Everything I read about that virtual program, it's effective for some, but not for all. And it is particularly not effective for the kids that have difficulties learning and need that face-to-face educational opportunity. Any other questions, Mrs. Black?
I just want to say something because I wasn't here at the last meeting. We hear our parents, we've heard our students, we've heard our teachers. The staff, I want to commend the staff at St. Mary Parish because I work in another district, and so I see 2 sides of it right now. And we are working 12-hour days. I'm up at 3 in the morning working. It's just constant. As soon as you get something in place, the state, the federal government changes something. And it's just not a simple change. It's not a simple change to move schools back. It affects your Title I, your special ed, not just special ed, but every facet of it, gifted and talented. There is so much. All we do is work for the next problem, and then that problem has another problem. And so even though we'll never please everybody, we're doing the best that we can as parents, as teachers, as administrators, and it's just very difficult. So just keep in mind that everybody's doing the best that they can with what we have, and it's just so uncertain at this time. The best place for our kids are in the schools. As great as we can get a virtual program going, and I commend Mr. DeReese because the technology portion is massive, especially when you have a district like St. Mary Parish and we have a lot of rural areas to figure out some kinks in. So what I hope is, we've heard the concerns of the safety of our schools, and I have every confidence that our schools can be a safe place for our kids. I'm hoping that by maybe pushing it back a little bit more, that we can, maybe things will improve a little bit in our state and in our community, and hopefully we can get more of those kids into our schools instead of virtual. I've been working in a virtual platform all summer long for special education students, regular education students, and it was phenomenal. But it is not the same as being in our classrooms, being with our teachers. And the social emotional impact of this on our kids is very important. We need them back in schools. But we also have to consider the kids who are not comfortable in our schools right now, and we need to make sure that everything is in place for them as well. So I do want to commend St. Mary Parish, even though it's not going to make everybody happy. I do believe that everybody in all schools, and you got to think about technology too. Every district in Louisiana are ordering computers, hotspots, trying to, not just in Louisiana, all over the country. They've had to wait for funding to even purchase the materials and then to get them ready. So while it's simple to say, let's start school now, or let's push it back to after Labor Day, there are much more facets that it affects and have to be put into place. And one change is like a domino effect in everything that we have to consider. So I just want to say that we have heard our parents, and we've heard our community, and we've heard our teachers and our administrators, and we're trying the best that everybody can for what's best for our kids. And so I just wanted to say thank you. Thanks for letting us know your concerns, and thanks to our staff as well, who have worked tirelessly since March. A lot of people say, you've had since March. It changes every day. Yeah, I had a plan in March, but that plan has changed every day since March 13th. So I just want to say, please just be understanding of your children's educators and their schools and the people who have to make these tough decisions, because they're not easy decisions to do. And like I said, every district kind of does everything a little differently, and not everybody's happy with everything. So I just want to say I commend our parents who are working with our kids virtually, our kids who have stepped up to the plate, our teachers who have, our administrators, and everybody in our district, because we really have to be in this together to make it work. So I just want to say thank you to everyone, and this is a tough decision for us, but know that we're trying to choose the best thing for our kids.
Mrs. Wright?
No, I'm fine.
Okay.
Just
Look, no, I want to say one thing.
yes.
I do understand that the teachers will be ready. They need at least another week. And if we give them 2 weeks, they would be more than ready, if they can get ready in 1 week. So it all stems to the technology. And I'd risk this tracking. I don't think we have to close our schools, keep our closed schools, so we can track computers. The families are going to sign for them, and they're responsible for them.
Mrs. Wright?
Okay, all right. I noted a couple of things before I came to the meeting. The first thing I want to say is that I looked at my emails as Mr. Alfred, you looked at your emails, and I can't say that I had 100% of the people who said that they wanted all to go one place, because I did not. I did have some people say, please vote in order for us to have the students come to school immediately. I did have that, but 100%, no, I didn't have that. Even people who are in your district, because you go around the Four Corners area, Baldwin, I've had some of those people also to tell me that they were interested in postponing it further. So I guess they just didn't contact you. The other thing is that I had people who tell me that I I am a diabetic. This is what one lady said. I'm a diabetic. I have all kind of problems. She said, I can't teach my students. I can't teach my children at home. She said, I heard that you all said that if you want to delay it, why don't you just go virtual and keep your children at home? She said, I can't do it. She said, I work all day. She said, I can't be home. I'm a single parent. I'm a diabetic. It's hurt for me. I'm scared to send my children, but I know that that's the only method that I have. So if we can delay this, she said, please do so. That was touching. Then I'm hearing these professional people. I'm hearing the person that's over elementary education asking us to wait. I'm hearing the person, well, I'm not hearing, but I see you nodding back there in agreement with the person over secondary education asking her, why don't we wait? I'm hearing Dr. Bagwell saying, why can't we wait with this calendar? I have heard a lot of people say, why don't we wait? Now, of course, I'm saying the same thing. Why don't we wait? Now, I have been to all of the schools in my district. They are working really hard. I wanted to see the classrooms. I wanted to see how many students are going to be in the classrooms. I wanted to see where are where they're going to wash their hands. I wanted to see that, and I'm sure all of you all have been to all of your schools too to see the same thing. I'm sure of that. And they are working hard, but there are some things that need to be in place. They need this time. You all know that from the last time, I am concerned about the bus routes. I'm concerned that the kids the bus driver has to wear a mask, but the children going on the bus do not have to wear a mask unless something changed. And to me, something needs to be worked out for that. A lot of things need to be worked out. I was going to volunteer, and I understand I got a letter a few minutes before I got here from the attorney saying that there's a lot of legal, some problems, put it that way. You're saying there's some problems with what I'm suggesting, that I want to go out there. Yes, I'm almost 70 years old in December. Yes, I'm a diabetic. Yes, I have high blood pressure. I would go out there to volunteer to help them with the bus routes because I thought that maybe we could add money. Then I hear the governor and someone else saying that they're going to add some more money. Well, if they're going to add some more money, then that's another reason we can hold off some more time, because maybe we can, Mr. Financial Officer, add some attendance to the bus route so that we'll have somebody to make sure that they get on the bus, that they have a seating chart for them on the bus, and that it's developed and maintained for the safety of the bus driver, the children, the teachers, and the administrators. I also saw some cleaning supplies. I didn't see much, but it looked like to me they're still being ordered. I know once you say you're having problems, I can't see why we can't wait. I just can't see why, and it's coming to a decision that we're going to just have to vote on it. And so, but everybody has to give their own opinion. I heard, and I had this on my agenda too, put the community at the table. I heard someone say that when they were up here, community school relations. Well, that was on my sheet too. Put the community at the table. You have some more time now that you could kind of get the parents to feel that you got to sell them into this. The parents, they're scared of this. You're going to have to meet with them, and you're going to have to sell this program to them. Now, we took a class, Ms. Lockett, Mr. Foucault, and I last weekend. St. Helena Parish, that what they did for the students, they did a simulation that showed the students in the mask getting on the bus. All of the students had masks and trained, And the parents felt good about that. They showed them how they were going to eat in the not in the cafeteria, wherever they were going to eat. They showed all of this. This is some time for us to set things up so that we can make the parents feel good about what we're doing. The teachers are asking for us for some time. The professionals are asking us for some time. I just can't see why we can't give them more time.
Mr. Delott.
I understand where you're coming from, Ms. Rack, but incidentally, the emails were a ratio 8-to-1 on my personal computer for the starting up schools on the date we gave them.
Okay.
That's what I'm getting. Okay. I'll give you an idea who we represent in the whole board. We've got percent of kids going on campus, and I won't read all the schools, but let me read the high schools. We got 74% want to go back to school on campus at Morgan City. 81% that wants to go back to school on campus at Berwick. 62% at Patterson. 80% at Centerville. Now, when we get to West St. Mary, 43%, and Franklin High, 41%. But we represent this whole parish. And I can understand, and another thing I'm worried about is these parents, if they choose strictly virtual, that's going to require discipline on that kid's part, that student's part, and it's going to require an extreme amount of discipline on the parents' part. They're going to find out what teachers do. And let's start the schools on, what'll it be, the 24th. That gives Mr. DeReese 2 weeks, gives all the teachers 2 weeks. They said they could be ready in 1.
Who said that?
I discussed it with the superintendent. She said they could probably be ready in 1.
Yeah, I think the teachers...
And I talked to some teachers too.
An extra week for sure, to complete the trainings that they haven't had an opportunity to complete, and then we need a week to do the parents. I guess my concern is if technology would be... We don't have that.
That's my concern also. I don't like delaying it at all, but I could definitely go with a 2-week delay and go to the 24th. But if the computers aren't ready and we can't provide those to the students, particularly with the large number of students opting to go to a virtual school, we can't start without that equipment available, and we can't get a guarantee from Mr. DeReese on that in 2 weeks. I think that's the issue. Do we want to try it in 2 weeks and then come back and start this process over again, or just allow the extra 2 weeks beyond that and give the cushion to where we know that we should be able to meet the demands of the systems on
I'm saying
day one.
Try to get
and do like all the other parishes in the southern part of the state. Most of them have moved it back to the day after Labor Day, by the way.
But don't let tracking keep our schools closed. That's ridiculous.
Any other
You're
comments?
saying that Lafayette has moved to after Labor Day. New Iberia has moved to after Labor Day. All of the surrounding schools that we have moved until after Labor Day, or they're going on to just all virtual.
Ms. Freyu.
Mr. Folkard?
Don't leave yet. Okay.
Mr. Folkard?
What difference does it make to the people in this room what day is school open? Because we don't have no children in school, and we're not in school. So I'm dealing with a brother of mine that went to Vietnam, and we can't let nobody come out to see him because of the COVID. The people don't want nobody in school because of COVID. If they got COVID, you can't go to school. If you got COVID, you can't come here. So we just asking for a little time to see if this stuff will clear up. Trump's partners are catching COVID now. They wearing masks. The other thing, and his son ain't going to school right now because he's going to virtual.
I wanted to ask Ms. Freyu a question if I could. Ms. Freyu, talk to to me about the elementary students. We have a large number that are going virtual, and how are y'all managing that, the class setup, the training of the teachers? I'm going to say I got this same emails I'm sure you guys got, and the majority, probably 8-1, were please open school. But I also had contact from a couple of teachers and administrators that said, we're just not ready. And if we can be ready in 2 weeks, I'm all for 2 weeks.
Right, and I don't know that we can put a 2-week time frame. I appreciate Dr. Bagwell saying next week we're going to meet with parents, because just like some other people said, if we meet with the parents next week and we explain, because I think there's still some miscommunication, and we posted it on the Facebook, we posted on the website, but for a child that's going to do virtual, they're going to have to log on at 8 o'clock. Attendance still has to be taken. And so I had 23 parent phone calls yesterday, all wanting to switch to virtual. Well, as Nikki Freyu, I can't say no, because you know what? If I don't let your son go and he gets COVID, how do I get to decide who goes? But just so you know, those 23 students, well, actually it was more than 23 because one of them had 4 children. At one school, that now puts too many children to be in the one class that we have. So now I have to take those kids and make 2 in-person classes. That teacher was a virtual teacher. So at this school, I now have to take their 8 kids that are virtual, contact another school, and add those kids to theirs. So what Deborah Mitchell's been doing behind the scenes, and nobody even sees what she does in J Campus, every move I make makes a move for her. It makes a move for a principal, it makes a move for a teacher. So all I would like, whether it's 2 weeks or a month, is if we meet with the parents next week and we give them the lowdown of how it's going to look. My grade levels look a little different than Dr. Fagenbush. Come on up. When we give them that information, after that meeting, we have to have a hard date. So if we meet next week and we say on August the 20th, you cannot change your mind, because we can't keep doing this.
And that was going to be my question to Dr. Bagwell.
I agree with that.
And today what they said, 2 of them today said, I promise you I won't pull my kids. I want them in person. I work, but I'll quit my job. But if you just give us a little time and we can make sure those numbers are flat, then I'll send them in person. And there is nothing. Tonight I have a dinner because my son's graduating with his master's, and he did it all virtually. I couldn't have done it virtually. So we have to meet everybody's needs, and I want that virtual to be just as good as in person.
So Ms. Rack had mentioned if we give it a little time, it could then allow parents to maybe feel comfortable sending their children to school. Maybe you said that, I'm not sure. But my problem is we've got to have a hard date and say, you've got to make a decision. Once you've made this decision, whether we're going back on the 24th or the 8th, that's what you've got to do.
And like Ms. Freyu said, that, we had a deadline on a Monday. We let them trickle in till Friday. Then what we found out the following Monday, we had people desperately calling, requesting to go virtual. And as she iterated, for us to deny that and then something happened to that kid, I can't bear that on my conscience. So at this point, I feel like parents need the orientation. They need to see, even though we did the little Facebook forum and we kind of introduced them to what virtual looks like, they really need to see what's going to be required and what their role in that process is going to be. And you may have some people who at that point say, well, this isn't really what I thought I was getting into. There is no replacement for there is no effectiveness level that can compare to a teacher in the classroom with a child. Even with the rotation of instruction, and we're using Microsoft Teams, so they're actually being taught by a teacher. We're not using canned programming where they just go in and do a little bit of work here and there. We're attempting to genuinely teach these kids, but even with that, it does not replace the teacher and the child in the classroom with immediate feedback and immediate reteaching to help that child. And as superintendent, I cannot sleep at night thinking what's going to happen to these kids at the end of this school year or even when they return. We know that there is unfinished learning, as the state likes to call it, that we need to address. To address that in a virtual learning environment, that is not going to have the same impact as if they were on campus. But I don't want to convince a parent of that, because that is their decision. I just want to give them the information that I can to allow them to make an informed decision.
Ms. Mitchell is doing all the work, but we have to give kudos. Our secretaries and our guidance counselors have been working way past their hours because this changes everything they do. And every time a child changes from in-person to virtual or virtual to in-person, it's just this ton of work.
And I don't want to delay. I want to start Monday. That's what I want to do. But that's not going to happen. And I really want to start on the 24th. But if we're going to delay, I'm in favor of giving this staff, who worked just tremendously, and the principals and the teachers are working right now. I just think that what's 2 more weeks? Let's give them a little bit of cushion and be able to be comfortable with this. Not just because of the virus, but also to be able to be comfortable teaching in the setting.
Especially, I know what Ms. Black said, and I totally agree with her. It has been a nightmare for me with my kids going virtual. I'm just going to be honest, Ms. Badger and I talk at 5:30 in the morning. What are we going to do when kids decide to go virtual? You got a teacher hanging out there. I have IEPs that I have to look at. I just can't say, from March 13th, I have compensatory education to worry about. That's on top of everything else that I have to do. And to rewrite for my ICP plan, a contingency plan because of COVID. My teachers have to do that. They need time. And then if you're a new teacher, you're frustrated because you got the IEP on the other hand, then you got a contingency plan on this hand. I mean, we have been working so hard to get this done. And I'm asking, we need more time. We really do. If we're going to get it right, and we want to get it right, we need this time. Because it's special ed is a tough cookie. If you have a board opinion, Ms. Black can tell you. I have to follow strict federal guidelines. COVID does not dismiss me from what my responsibilities are to parents to provide faith. Free appropriate public education. When they go into virtual, my whole plan changed. Her schedule changes.
3 times now.
3 times now. The schedule changes.
We have rescheduled the junior highs and high schools 3 different times. Right now, we have schools that do not have schedules to hand out to kids. So if we go to school Monday, where are they going to sit? Which class are they supposed to go to? And it's not for a lack of effort or trying, because I can tell you, we've been working hours trying to get these things together.
Every time my parents say we're going virtual, I have to call her and say, okay, Dr. Baby-Bush, we have to change the schedule, because with COVID, we got to have X amount of kids in that classroom, whether it's physical or virtual. So it changes, it affects everybody across the board.
And I really want to say is, we keep talking about technology, and I think it's very unfair that we're saying that the only reason we're not ready to go is because of technology. It's very unfair. Mr. Dries has been working very hard for that. That's not the only reason we're not ready to go. Our students and our teachers need more time, first of all, to learn the materials themselves. Our kids, we need to actually have an opportunity to teach them how to use the laptops and the programming that we're using now, beyond the teachers. There's so many stakeholders who are involved in this. And, like you said, I would really like to start school Monday. That's the best scenario, of course, but it's not feasible right now. It is not the best choice that we can make. It's just not. We have a lot of new teachers in our district, and as any district, when you get new teachers, they're still getting into the materials. They're still getting just credentials so they can get email. And so now we have to take these new teachers and we have to train them, not only in just being in your new school and what are their rules and procedures, but now we also have to teach them how to be a virtual teacher. And that was never in any of their programming that they had. Never. Mr. Alfred, earlier you mentioned a baseball analogy, and I kind of thought about that because teaching is our World Series. It really is. And so what if you were going to the World Series with your team, and 2 weeks before you started, they told you, oh, by the way, I know you're used to playing with the baseball, but this time you got to use a basketball. And that's what's happening to teachers right now. They're used to playing with the sport the way that they were trained. And now they're learning to do it completely differently, and it just can't happen so quickly. We just need a little bit more time. So I'm asking to please consider it.
Any other discussion? Mr. Barbier?
Yes, first off, I want to commend y'all all involved in this. This has not been an undertaking that just started last night, last week. This has been going on for a long time, and by no means is it a failure on any of y'all part that we are not ready. And I hope y'all all realize that. I had a lot of calls today, texts and all that, and most of them were in opposition for us to keep the calendar as it is. After explaining to them that, you know, it's no one's fault, we're just not ready, most of the parents did agree that, you know, as they want to see their kids back in school. I think the only one on this board that has a child in the school system. And do I want to see my child put in a position that they get hurt? No, I do not. I think what the proposal right here, Dr. Bagwell, after speaking with her, you know, we are almost there, just a little bit off. Little time's not going to hurt anything. As I told the parents that I talked to today, I'm not making a decision on account of somebody or what they said, anything like that, because some of the people that have said things out there in the public, I have yet to hear any of them say, Monday, I have yet to hear anybody complain about the first day of football. So if we're that concerned about our children, we need to be concerned about that aspect too. So with that, I just think that, you know, y'all are doing a great job. There is no rule with this, and everybody in the United States is going through this same problem right now. And just because we push it back doesn't mean it's a failure on your part, anyone's part in here. It's just something that we were told that we thought we could get it together. And as a school board member, we are given, you know, the information from y'all, recommendations. Last time we went with the recommendation because it could be done. Well, now we're saying that it can't. And you know, it's all right to change. And it's not saying that you are wrong, you don't know what you're doing, or that this person is right on what they're saying on the outside. It's just something that we have to look into, and we have to decide as a school board what is best for our children. And when I say our children, yes, I do have a child in the system. I know that was passed last time that no one has a student in the system. I do have a child, and as Ms. McClarity knows, my child is in special ed, you know, and I talked to her and asked her, you know, what are some of the complications? And when I see those things, yeah, we may need a little time. And 2 weeks, when I did explain to some of the people that, you know, we looked at the calendar, most of them said, you know what, the calendar is what it is. If we got to go till June, that's fine. Most of them were afraid that we would have to go all the way till the end of June. We're seeing right here it's going to be June 4th. We're looking at 2 weeks more. It's not that big of a deal, or a week more. It's not that big of a deal. And I just want to, like I said, commend all of y'all. It's not a failure on your part. It's actually, I know how y'all are working.
I also want to say it was a pleasure getting emails today from parents that were saying, please, our kids are ready to go to school, because we've heard so much negative lately. Don't open schools, don't open schools. And it was a pleasure. It really, it did me a lot of good. I needed those emails today.
Everybody, I think, in this world is wanting some kind of consistency. And none of us have had that since March. And I think, you know, from hearing the sentiments of these parents, it's like, I just want to get my kid back into a routine. I've heard people say, you know, my kid's brain has turned to mush. And we know that when you teach somebody, they retain it. When you don't, they lose it. As I was talking to somebody on the way here, you know, we were talking about that. And even this virtual thing, I think next week with us having explaining to these parents what virtual is, some of them may drop out, because virtual is not the easiest solution to this. And a lot of people think that I'm going to turn on the TV, I'm going to put on Romper Room, and that's my child's education. That is far from the truth. Virtual is going to be a lot on the parent, it's going to be a lot on the student, I have a daughter right now that's going back for her second degree, and she does virtual. She has the discipline to do this. Now, my younger child probably would not have the discipline to be able to do this, and I don't compare. But I hope these people that are doing virtual realize that this is an undertaking as a parent on your child's education. This is not just to come up there and say, I'm gonna turn the computer on at 8 o'clock. I'm gonna do what I gotta do. Kids, you do what you gotta do on the computer. It's not gonna be like that. You are teaching, I'm not saying by yourself, but you are teaching a lot more than what somebody does. And they're gonna catch it one time. Whereas when you're in school, you're gonna see it multiple times during the week or during the day. And we all know it's about like a pitcher or whatever, as a coach would, explain to us. You learn from muscle memory. And it's the same thing with education. The more you have practiced this, your brain remembers it. And that's the whole thing that I hope these parents are realizing, that virtual, look into it, make sure it's the way you want to go, and make sure that you can supply the children with the needs they need. Thank you.
And I agree also about that virtual. It is difficult. It's like when you're in school, and I told my students we're going to have a test, and it's going to be open book. They go like, oh, good, open book. But open book test, they'll say, well, this is harder than when I have to really memorize it. It's like you really have to know where it is in order to look for it and find it. And so it is difficult. So parents do need to know what is the difference, what is expected. It's not something that's just pre-recorded or packaged that you got over the summer that you have to do. They really do need to know what it is. So we do need time to give to them. I understand you say they don't have to have 3 weeks to make a decision. But if you're going to meet 1 week, give them the next week, because that's all it took you was 1 week in order to start doing this other stuff that you said that you were doing with the computers. But give the parents the opportunity in order to see what it exactly is, because a lot of them don't know it. Now let me say this about emails. I receive emails, and some of you say you receive emails, but a lot of the parents not emailing. They're talking it. So just like you're saying, you're receiving emails, I'm hearing a lot of it, and I've heard way, way more than the emails that I received.
All right, Mr. Alfred.
Just a couple things. Dr. Bagwell, at an earlier meeting, I asked the question, what happens if the governor puts us in phase 3? And you said that everybody be going from face-to-face, right?
Correct.
So when he makes his announcement, that's going to be towards the end of August, all of this technology discussion we had might be moot, right?
Correct. Yes, sir.
I know we got to do it, but I'm just saying that's a possibility. And the last thing I wanted to say, Mr. Taylor, I promise I won't say anything else, is I'm not against a delay. I just think that 28 days is too much.
Any other comments? We'll hold off till Mr. DeLotte gets back in. He just stepped out to use the bathroom. Y'all indulge me 1 second. I want to read just a little bit of an article that was put out by the Center for Disease Control. And it's just about the reopening of schools. It's 7 pages. I will send this to everybody afterward, or get the staff to do so, but I'll just read the opening remarks. As families and policymakers make decisions about their children returning to school, it is important to consider the full spectrum of benefits and risks of both in-person and virtual learning options. Parents are understandably concerned about the safety of their children at school in the wake of COVID-19. The best available evidence indicates if children become infected, they are far less likely to suffer severe symptoms. Death rates among school-aged children are much lower than among adults. At the same time, the harms attributed to closed schools on the social, emotional, and behavioral health, economic well-being, and academic achievement of children in both the short and long term are well known and significant. Further, the lack of in-person educational options disproportionately harms low-income and minority children and those living with disabilities. These students are far less likely to have access to private instruction and care, and far more likely to rely on key school-supported resources like food programs, special education services, counseling, and after-school programs to meet the basic development needs. Aside from a child's home, no other setting has more influence on a child's health and well-being than their school. The in-person school environment does the following: provides educational instruction, supports the development of social and emotional skills, creates a safe environment for learning, addresses nutritional needs, and facilitates physical activity. And it goes on, expands on that quite a bit. It even talks about the problem with laying off for summer and the summer lag that happens, where kids lose between 20 and 35% of the level at which they were when they got out of the prior class. And by being off 5 months, how much damage that has caused to the educational process. But anyway, it's just interesting reading. Sorry to make y'all listen to that.
Can I comment on what you said about the kids and the health, and they'll have a better chance if they were to get the COVID-19. But you also have to remember that they are going homes where there are grandparents in the homes, and they're like the lady who spoke with me about what she had. And so when you think about that, the kids might do well, but they're going into these homes with the grandparents and homes with a lot of other people who have underlying conditions. And if you want to talk about low income, or if you want to talk about percentages, and we talked about people on the East End, there's a lot of parents on the East End, the children are going to the schools, and a lot of kids on the West End, the kids are not going to school. But if you think about it, 30% of African Americans who are basically on the West End of the parish, they are getting COVID-19, and that's why the parents are afraid. That's why they're scared. 5 to 7% of white parents or adults get COVID-19, and they're feeling better about it. So you have to think about all of those things considered. And so that's why they're asking also, wait a little while. We just want the opportunity to just to give us a couple of more weeks. Why we can't do that? And yes, Lafayette is doing, yes, New Iberia is doing, yes, other parishes are doing. Why can't we do it? And we heard from the professionals, we've heard from Dr. Bagwell, and then they're asking us to wait.
All right, we've kind of given everybody a chance to speak several times on the issue. We'll call a vote on it at this time. All in favor of the motion, would you please indicate by saying aye?
Aye.
Any opposed, nay?
Nay.
Hey.
Could we have a roll call vote, please?
Sure. Mr. Folkard?
Aye.
Ms. Lockett?
Aye.
Mr. Alfred?
Nay.
Mrs. Brack?
Aye.
Mrs. Griffin?
Yes.
Ms. LaSalle is here. Mr. Delott?
No.
Mrs. Black?
Yes.
Mr. Barbier?
Yes.
And Mr. Taylor?
Yes.
The motion passes.
All right, the motion carries.
For the sake of those people that sometimes ask, what passed? Would you please tell them, repeat the motion and what part that passed, please?
The motion is to accept the school calendar that was presented to us earlier, with the start date being 8th for the children.
Thank you.
All right, any other business as allowed back 131 that needs to be brought up at this time? I'll have a motion to adjourn. Mr. Barbier makes that motion. Mr. Folkard seconds. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. The motion carries.
Oh.